and don't feel too bad for him. Welcome to the 30th live edition of Bombs and Bants and Wednesday Rants. As always, I'm your dedicated and humble host, John Wilder, coming to you from an undisclosed location hidden deep beneath the surface of the earth. And with me, as always, is Mark.
Hey.
And the missus. Oh, wait. She's not here. So just, to bring everyone up to speed, she's home. She's fine. She's doing just spiffy, except for, she's still on some antibiotics. I'm sorry, anti-scurvy medicine. And so I was expecting her to be back tonight, but she was pretty tired. And you know what? We are up and we are live, and there are more than us watching. So everything is good now, Mark, because we had talked for a good 9 minutes, and I said, it should be showing up on YouTube by now. And Pugsley, who is standing in for the missus running all the technical stuff, assured me it was up, and that's okay. He'll pay for his insolence. So I was asking Mark. I gave Mark my tales of woe having a sick missus around the house, and then I said, what's up, Mark? And so Mark, what's up?
Well, other than the little weather I was talking about, we had a little skiff of snow this morning, which surprised me because it had been getting warmer, but now we're getting colder again. And then as I was telling you, I saw the new teaser for the ObiWan Kenobi series that's going to be released in May on Disney Plus, and it looked it looked pretty good. One of my sons and I, he's really into the Star Wars and Marvel, so we watched those together, and I've liked the Star Wars series, for the most part, pretty good so far. Whereas I there's a couple of the Marvel ones that I have not, but
you had mentioned Star Wars, and the funny thing is, as I recall, there was no Star Wars movie after this one. That's the last Star Wars music I ever remember hearing, ever. And it ended with and now, young Skywalker, you die, and then Luke Skywalker died, and that was the end of the whole thing. So yeah, there's another Star Wars out. Who knew? And I'll tell my story with Star Wars. Used to enjoy Star Wars quite a bit, but then I mean the prequels were kind of okay. I was excited to watch them, and the boy, when he was younger, he watched the Star Wars cartoons, but then I watched the don't even remember the name of. That's how bad it was. The first movie, or the I guess the sequel series, and I said, this is just awful. It's just kind of a bad rehash of the original Star Wars. I refuse to watch anymore or give Disney the dime for Star Wars stuff. So
yeah,
go ahead.
that one was The Force Awakens, and
Yes.
if you didn't see any more of those from that trilogy, just count yourself as having been greatly blessed, because they got worse.
Well, I heard I do watch I do watch an occasional YouTuber who talks about Star Wars, and lo and behold, he mentioned in the third of the ninth movie, technically the ninth movie, he said that they had a cavalry charge on top of a Star Destroyer.
Yes.
So horses on top of a. I can't see any universe where that made sense, or anyone who wasn't nearly in a coma from massive use of drugs would have greenlit that sort of a scene.
The way, from what I can tell from these movies, and I'm not picking just on Star Wars. I mean, I see this with other movies, but rather than a true story, it's like they come up with a scene. They have something, oh yeah, that would be a cool scene. And so they have a series of these scenes, and then they don't even really care how they try to link them together. And so it's just a mess with these different scenes. And you're right, sometimes they don't make any sense. And none of it made sense on this last one of the third trilogy.
And Codex notes that they were waiting for The Force Goes Out to brunch, but they never got it. So that's that's really good.
I don't know. I mean, there's all these rumors that eventually they're gonna excise these last three movies and just sort of do a do-over, but we'll see.
Well, I can see that, but it's probably about time to jump into the news. You ready to jump? You ready to jump into the news? Well,
I am ready to jump.
I have a jazzy new news theme song for us. Because everything is about Russia, Russia, Russia. I wish we could get Jan to go, Russia, Russia, Russia. So anyway, in the latest news, of course, this is really just the strangest set of news to me, because it's like you get news both ways with this. It's the news stories are just so polar opposites. On one end, Russian forces about to collapse. And then on the other end, you get Zelensky requests NATO aid, or else all deaths are on NATO. So, on one side you hear a really desperate struggle for survival of Ukraine, and on the other side, well, don't worry about the Soviets; they're going to collapse.
Yeah, that's sort of what I observed. As always, I think the truth's somewhat more in the middle, but I don't have high hopes for Ukraine. I don't. Uh,
And now I have to take just a complete jump out of this, and then we'll jump right back into it. Last week at the start of the broadcast, I noted that George Takei had passed away. I was totally wrong. I could explain how I got wrong. I actually checked it, but yeah, his Twitter says otherwise. Since he's telling us that we should all pay more for gas and be happy because that's for freedom. So I'm back to back to Ukraine. So what are you saying? Again, once your page has wonderful Ukraine updates. What do you stand?
well, actually, a lot of it's what I'm not seeing, and which is I'm not seeing these. First of all, there's surprisingly very little video of actual fighting coming out of Ukraine. And I realize that the war correspondents there don't want to get anywhere close to the war, but you'd think there'd be a little bit more in what we're seeing. As far as I can tell, the Russian troops are, so far trying to minimize damage and so forth. And the reason I say that, I mean, I know we're seeing like certain apartment blocks that have been massively, hit with something and destroyed. But on the other hand, we're also seeing videos of middle-aged couples chasing, they're completely unarmed, yelling and chasing Russian soldiers out of their backyard.
But so let me jump on here, because here's one of the things that I'm seeing, and this is one of the things that I find especially concerning, because I again, I don't know what the rest of the mainstream world sees, because I don't go to those sites so much anymore. But I did see a Russian tank shooting, and not something that was meant to take out a tank. Probably, I don't know, probably something bigger than a 50 cal. It really did it really destroyed the vehicle that was a car, and there was a couple in it. And so immediately underneath, people were saying war crime, war crime, war crime. And then in the next tweet, I see this passenger car that is moving these Javelin missiles. So, and then you see the apartment buildings that are blown up, but then you see drone footage of a Ukrainian essentially with firing some type of mortar from the top of a building. And it's an apartment block, so you can't have it both ways. Either if you fire from a building, the building is going to get shot at. And if you were using civilian cars to I mean, one of the earliest videos I saw was these folks driving down the road and in their car, and they take a Molotov cocktail and out of their passenger car and throw it on the treads of a tank. You know what? And the kicker to that one is, of course, the person caught themselves on fire with the gasoline from the Molotov cocktail. But you can't be a civilian and have the impunity as a civilian and take place in combat and not have the expectation that they're going to be civilian deaths. I'm sorry. You really can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we see this a lot. Like, for instance, the Palestinians have always done that little trick where they put all their military stuff in like, for instance, they'll have a bunch of missiles or something stored in a school, and then they get all upset when the school's targeted. But So it's fairly common. But I don't know. I mean, I think back to World War II, and I mean, frankly, from what I've seen of so far in Ukraine, I think that a World War II Russian or German army would have actually progressed a lot faster, but they also would have been just shelling the crap out of everything.
Well, yeah. Again, we're not getting too deeply into the tactics. The Germans would have encircled the city, and they would have waited for weeks until the defenders were weakened, and they would have just taken them all prisoner. The Germans didn't really try in inner cities for the most part until they got to contested cities,
Yeah,
until they got to Stalingrad, and by then they'd blown it to smithereens and just made it perfect ground for a defender. In fact, there was a joke at the time. It said after 4.5 hours of combat, in which 80 German soldiers were killed, we took the kitchen of the of the Friedhof household. I mean, but we lost it back that afternoon. I mean, and it was just brutal
yeah.
fighting.
Well, I mean, we're gonna see something similar here. One of the videos I posted today on my blog, I think had a really good explanation of some of the tactics and strategies that the Russians have, and right now they're they're in the process of surrounding Kiev and building what uh, the guy on the video described as essentially the equivalent of some of our forward operating bases. But anyway, um, creating these bases that they can then advance closer to and completely encircle the city. So and that's where it's going. The Russians are going to win this unless something really we do something really stupid. And
Yeah, and here's because NATO has backed down on providing jets. The Poles said that they would give us the jets so that we could give them the Ukrainians, and we said no, we're not touching that. Um, but here's what I heard. I heard Zelensky today saying, yes, Crimea is Russian, and absolutely we will commit in our constitution not to join NATO. And all he has to do is give up on the two provinces. And the Russians, I think, at this point will back out.
I agree. I mean that was their deal that they were offering like just a day or two ago at these peace conference or meetings that they were holding.
And again, I don't want anyone who is listening to think that I am pro-Russian or pro-Ukraine. I am pro. I don't care, because it's like asking for me to be on the favor of the Medellin cartel or the Cali cartel. Did I say cartella? Did I really say that? Anyway, Medellin cartel or the Cali cartel. I mean, Zelensky has killed, not personally, 14,000 ethnic Russians in bombing the Donbass area. 14,000. And that was part of and he jailed his opposition candidates, and he kicked off, he shut down opposition, like 3 opposition television stations in one day. He's no savior. He is no virtuous bastion of democracy. And
No, I agree. I mean, there's, I'd come across a story, sort of, it helps to go back and look at some of these older stories, but especially after 2014. But yeah, I came across one with Amnesty International having released a press release about all of the people that were being starved over in the Russian speaking areas in eastern Ukraine.
And if you look actually at Crimea, after before Crimea was retaken by Russia, again, it was very heavily ethnic Russian. And in that particular area, people who had Russian names were pressured to adopt Ukrainian versions of that name. It would be like someone saying, "You now must go by Juan." Well, no, I'm John. No, you must go by Juan because now you're a part of this country. And so it's a messy situation.
Yeah, there's no good guys versus bad guys in this type of thing.
But there are some outcomes that I think the United States is not going to like. Right now I'm looking at diesel, $7.39. I'm looking at premium gasoline at $6.64, and this is in California, so this is not where I'm at. So I'm looking at the cost of fuels has gone up. Now, here's something that a little bit interesting to me. Russia exports twice as much as it imports. Between the Russia, good heavens, we need the misses back. but between Russia and Ukraine, they export 25% of the wheat exports in the world. 25%. That wheat is not being planted right now in Ukraine, and the winter wheat crops. I mean, if things are done, I mean, things might go back to normal, but you can be assured that the wheat crops are going to be far less than normal. Additionally, fertilizer. Fertilizer is manufactured in Ukraine. It's manufactured in Russia, and it's exported from those countries. Oil. Russia is the second largest exporter of oil in the world. Natural gas. Russia is by far, it's not even close. Russia is by far the largest exporter of natural gas in the world. You look at nickel, you look at steel, you look at titanium, you look at gold. Russia is in the top 5 for being an exporter in commodity after commodity. And again, it exports twice as much as it imports. So this is something that's kind of fascinating to me. Russia can tell the world, you can go to hell. This is the biggest import to Russia. You ready? Phones. Okay. $1.5 billion a year of cell phones. Okay. $1.5 billion a year. That's their biggest import. The next is car parts. Since Russia doesn't need the rest of the world, the rest of the world needs Russia. And if Russia gets together with China and they come up, I'm sure Russia would be glad to sell all the natural gas to the West that they wanted for gold now. And you're going to ship the gold to Russia. It's not going to be in your vaults because you'll take our money whenever it suits you. What this does is this destroys the petrodollar. This destroys that happy fiction that we have been maintaining since Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard in, was it 71? 71. Well, let's go with 71. Yeah, 71 or 73. It's an odd number. Okay, but since Nixon took us off the gold standard, there's been a happy fiction in the world that the dollar is worth something other than a promise, right? And I'm sorry, Codex just wrote something that's really funny. Though, of course, Russia and Saudi Arabia and China and the EU wouldn't respect us like they do Biden and Kamala. But so what happens, though, potentially, is now we have one of the world's largest exporting economies teaming up with the other world's largest exporting economy and saying, you know what, we're not going to play the dollar game anymore. What happens to the value of the dollar then? What happens to the empire? I mean, what do we, outside of Star Wars movies and Marvel movies and technical consulting and some specialty gear here and there, what is it we make anymore? What is it we export anymore? Consulting? Accounting errors? I mean, what is it that we do anymore? And the answer is we buy stuff. We're into finance, insurance, and real estate. And you can't run an economy on finance, insurance, and real estate. Again, we do make a lot of agricultural products. I'm not gonna put those down, but we're less of an exporter of agricultural products in the Soviet Union. So anyway, that's it. That's a oh, I like this. Codex also notes if you have to admit getting trounced by the Romans and becoming Ionis Secundus. I like that. I like that. So anyway, that's my, this conflict by Biden trying to use those sanctions might be the ultimate bluff that destroys the privileged position that the dollar has had since World War II. So that was a really long statement. So what are your thoughts there, Mark?
Well, I agree. I mean, it's not even just with Russia. I mean, the whole petrodollar aspect was based on an agreement with Saudi Arabia that they would denominate all of their petro sales in dollars.
Yes.
And and so that's why we have this oil-based dollar that is a reserve currency, and everybody wants it because that's what they need if they need the dollars if they want to buy oil from the Middle East. But one of the things that's been in the news lately is Biden futilely, he's now begging the Saudis to increase oil production in order to help the midterm elections, and the Saudis are basically saying no, we're not going to do that. And part of it is because he's alienated the Saudis, and in particular the ruling prince, and just snubbed him left and right ever since he took office.
Well, yes, that's 100% the case. But it's even worse. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi wouldn't even take his phone calls. Here's the person who is sitting in the Oval Office, the resident of the United States, who can't get Saudi Arabia to take his phone call. Won't pick up the phone. As noted by Codex as well. Golly, sure, it'd be nice to have a mean tweet or two in a functional pipeline right about now.
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal. I mean, there's the part of that agreement with the Saudis was, of course, that we would guarantee their security. And, frankly, even though it wasn't ratified by Congress as a treaty, I mean, we had made similar promises to the Ukraine, and we all know where that is right now. So Biden, by his bluffing and everything, has seriously damaged the United States economically and with the reputation. And you're right. I mean, I think we could very well be seeing the end of the dominance of the U.S. dollar.
And again, I think here's what Biden did. I think he, through the State Department or directly, went to Zelensky and said, "Hey, why don't you," and Putin, and said, "Hey, why don't you and him let's fight?" And he egged it on. I think he was looking for a way out of COVID. I think he was looking, okay, the American people will support me, and I've got to say, they have been.
Well, I'm a little bit more cynical and wonder if this is part of the Great Reset we were promised, because the Great Reset is just a euphemism for the destruction of the United States and its global power.
Well, in Minneapolis, all guys notes the New York Fed chairman said the world can have more than one reserve currency. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, again, Here is my question today. Gold went to $2,000 an ounce. Why is it that low? And this is me personally. This is not a financial advice. I'm buying some silver and some gold tomorrow. I'm absolutely buying some more silver and gold tomorrow. I mean, I didn't say more, did I? I didn't say I was going to do that, did I? Well, never
Yes.
mind. but you get the idea here. I think that there is a very high chance, much better than even. If you had asked me last night while I was writing my last post, I would have said that there's a 90% chance that by July of 2023, the dollar will have lost 90% of its value from today. The only true store is hard assets. I went to a store today, saw ribeye steak for $23.99 a pound.
Jeez.
Now, obviously that'll, and where we live, it's wonderful. It's very small. But there's ain't nobody's paying $23.99 a pound for ribeye, unless they've got perhaps if they've got EBT and another source of income, maybe. But nobody's paying that much for ribeye. Zero people here. And again, I think that was kind of some predatory pricing there, but that just gives you an idea of how wacky the things are. I mean, food, got to have food. Look how wacky it's getting. So,
Yeah, and I came across an article today. It was, on tips on how to avoid getting your gas drained out of your gas tank, which, frankly, I mean that hasn't been a serious issue or anyone devoted news time to it since the late 70s.
yeah, I recall a brief flurry of that happening. Again, this is back in the aughts, but yeah, that's you look at it and let's say if you have a 20-gallon tank, all of a sudden that's $140, and that's it. Life's pretty cheap, and so is Janet. For all your Rocky Horror Picture Show fans, got to know the lines. All right, let's see. What other things do we have going on? I mean, again, Russia and Ukraine, they dominate the news. They are thermobaric on the news because they just suck all the oxygen out of the rest of the room. Let's see. Going back to the top story, George Takei still alive. And I think the missus will be very happy to get back with the Jackass of the Week segment because, but again, need to get her back there. Let's see. And I'm looking for something happy, something funny, and I'm running out. You got to have a happy story for us, Mark. Got anything happy or whimsical?
Oh, let's see. Well, I think it was just last week. There was the story of the was he a kayaker or swimmer that was having problems, and a seal helped him get to an oil derrick so he didn't drown.
Well, that's a happy story.
Yeah, no, I think it always interests me when I see these stories where people, either animals are coming to people for help or they're helping the people. I think, and maybe it's just because these stories are of the internet that they're more accessible, but it seemed, just from my own personal observations, it seems like we see more of these than we have in the past.
Yep. Let's see. Also in tonight's news, Donald Trump's airplane had made an emergency landing in New Orleans. which I hope he stopped and got some beignets. Those are very tasty. Minneapolis old guy notes, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead. I remember that. So yeah, George Takei still alive. And let's see, Venezuela. Apparently, we're trying to get them to give us oil, but they're not really thinking that's a great idea either. And oh wait, here's some more happy news. Coronavirus completely disappeared. Have all of the restrictions gone where you're at?
Well, the local hospitals are still requiring you to wear a mask whenever you go to the hospital or to one of the clinics. But yeah, otherwise it pretty much has disappeared.
Okay, well, yeah. Hospital and clinics, I could almost say that. But here I'm seeing a story that the California officials raided preschool. Okay, these are California officials raided preschool and interviewed 2-year-olds over mask policies because of people who are the very best witnesses to mankind. It's 2-year-olds. So, yep. The community care licensing division entered 3 preschool locations, separated the children from their teachers, and interviewed them privately about the masking practices. 2-year-olds.
Oh, I can only say that the